This opening you see here on the screen is a very tricky opening and a very winning one for black. That is, if we don't know how to defend. Because in this video, I'm going to teach you how to defend this attack that's so trendy, and I'll show you how to counterattack so they're the ones who really suffer. I'm going to show you why it's so dangerous when we play the queen's pawn. They throw this gambit at us, giving away the king's pawn completely, huh? I'm sure you've seen this trap before. And now the pressure begins. First, knight c6 attacking this point that's completely undefended, and that's why we try to defend it. And it really doesn't matter if we do it with the knight or with the bishop, because after queen e7 they attack it again, and we'll have to do it now with the bishop. And if we had moved the bishop first, well, now the knight. But now what? Well, black gives us this check, we have to try to stop it, and besides, they're taking this bishop, check, and they take my bishop. Therefore, I move the bishop back, threatening the queen. But now they take this pawn right here. Look at that, huh? How dangerous it is. And if, for example, we come to attack the queen, they would come to pin us with this bishop here. We can't take the queen, and if we take this bishop, for example, they could simply take our rook. If we decide, for example, to play queen d2, they simply exchange and give us checkmate. I mean, this is very dangerous, and you must know how to play against it, but don't worry, it's very easy to punish. I'm going to explain how, and in no time, in less than 5 or 10 minutes, you'll know how to punish it. When they play this pawn, yes, take it without a problem, because we're going to do something. First, we're going to make it look like we're falling into their trap, and when they get confident, we'll be the ones to counterstrike. Let me explain. Knight c6. You can play whatever you want, either knight f3 or bishop f5. You know, bishop f4, you know why. Because after queen e7, we're going to play the other one. And when they give us this check, don't worry, everyone who plays this gambit against you will do exactly this. Because obviously they've studied the moves of this gambit, right? That's how it is. So we're going to go back with the bishop, huh? They give us check, and they threaten the bishop. We're going to go back with the bishop, and when they capture this pawn, and here comes the key, the only correct move, and you must remember this one, and if necessary, write it down on a piece of paper, is knight c3, okay? This is the correct move. It's scary because they can come and pin us with the bishop, pressure more, they can jump with the knight. But don't worry, I'm going to show you how to win in all the variations. So if they play this gambit against you, you can already shake their hand and tell them you've lost the game, just like you hear it. Well, first, I'm going to show you how to punish this attack. I insist, huh? There are two attacks here that seem dangerous. The first is this one with the bishop, and the second, this one with the knight. If they don't do either of them, phew, even worse, because you're going to do exactly the same thing. But they don't even have counterplay. You won't even need to be careful. We'll start with this one with the bishop, for example. All right? How should we react? Well, it's true that they're threatening us to take our knight, right? With two pieces. And many of you might think, I think I've already lost here because there's no way to defend this knight with another piece, right? That's what many of you might be thinking. And if I move the knight, maybe they'll trade, they'll take my rook. Well, be careful. What are we going to do? What? Rook to b1, simply. Why? Because this way we attack a higher value piece. They attack a knight, we attack the queen. Definitely not. They can't take the knight because we'll take the queen. And they can't take the knight with the queen either because it's properly defended by the bishop on d2. Therefore, if I tell you here you're the black pieces, what move would you make? I'm 100% sure that you'd all make the only logical one. I retreat the queen to the only possible square that exists to not lose her, right? And now what? How do I continue? Because now I'd probably think of coming with the rook here to keep pressing the queen. And this would be a very good idea. Yes, I'm not saying no, but there are much more incisive ways that allow us to directly go and pressure our opponent in a way they can't defend. How are we going to start with this little move here? First, we'll start by jumping with this knight. Knight to d5. Look, what an interesting move. With what idea? The idea is obvious, right? Not only do we attack this bishop with two pieces, which we're doing, right? Sorry, with three pieces I mean, well, it's defended by two, but on top of that we attack this. Knight takes c7, I give you check, and I take the rook, right? So here our opponent is going to say, oh, things are getting messy for me. Now what do I do, right? Very simple. The idea is that now black doesn't have much to choose from. For example, if they decide to make the most logical move in the world, which saves everything, which saves the c7 point and also saves the bishop, which is to simply do bishop takes bishop check, which is what you should all do when you find yourself so threatened. Simply, what are we going to do? Recapture with the queen. And many of you will say, let's see, but here they can simply already defend against the fork, and absolutely nothing has happened here. And in fact, I have several ways to defend against the fork. Well, if they defend with the king, let's see how it continues. But there's something you should know. What happens if they take this point here? If they move the king directly, we'll do the same, okay? Why? Because you're gonna see that the king is gonna end up moving anyway. The idea is that here, you shouldn't make the mistake of capturing this point giving check, because when they move the king, it's true that we can capture this rook, but they're gonna capture ours, and this will be very, very, very dangerous, okay? What should you do if they capture this point? Careful, black is trying to play well, but they won't be able to. I move the rook to d1, in such a way that now I have my pieces very well placed. And not only that, but I also continue threatening this point. At no point can you come and defend yourself with the queen, because I have mine. So, how can you go about defending this point? Well, let's see. We'll all agree that the only possible move is to come with the king. That's why I told you I was going to explain it to you now. When they come with the king, do you know what we're going to do? I love this. You want to defend this double? Well, now let's see how you defend the other one. I've threatened the first one, now I'm threatening the second one, right? Knight takes f7, check, and I take your wreck. Therefore, here, they must be very careful. Obviously, they can't go back with the king because we'd win the other rook, right? And here, logically, they have several moves. For example, knight takes e5, they win a pawn and defend this very important point on f7. And then, how do I continue? Many of you will be wondering here. Well, let's do it in the simple way. Surely many of you would think I attack the knight to come through here. This wouldn't be the most precise. Careful. We don't have a material advantage, far from it. In fact, we're down 2 pawns. However, the position is completely won for us. There's no way for the opponent to escape. And the move I recommend to you is queen c3. There's no way to save yourself here. I attack the knight, I attack this point, I'm going to checkmate you. When you escape, watch out, I'm threatening both knights, the rook also comes in. How can the black pieces stop this here? You'll be wondering, is there any way, chess teacher? Well, there are a few ways here. For example, they can try the resource of threatening this knight and trying to escape with the king. But simply here, instead of playing queen takes f7 directly, we have a beautiful tactical resource, which is this knight e6. First, and this should come to you at first glance. If they take my knight, for example, I'd have this discovered check retreat and I take the queen. How important discovered attacks are. But there's an even more incisive way to win the game, and it's not by using this discovery. Let me explain. I'm giving check to the cam. He can't escape because I take your rook and you've lost. What must he do? Well, he must take the knight, it's his only move, and accept that he's going to lose material. But we're not even going to go for the queen. Instead, what we're going to do is queen takes f7, check. The king has to escape, right? Only square to escape. Well, it seems like the only one, right? King 8. And now what are we going to do? Well, if this knight didn't exist, we'd give maiden 1. Therefore, we move the knight with check. I don't care if you take it. Why? Because on the next move, no matter what you take with, I'm going to mate you. I'm sure many of you are wondering that when we move this knight here, threatening the fork, instead of knight takes e5, it could also be defended with knight h6. You've been very observant. Why? Because yes, it's completely possible to also defend it with this knight h6. However, we destroy it quickly. King in the center, our pieces attack the king, we're gonna open lines. Do you remember? Let's do one thing. Don't just remember the exact moves, but as I always say, remember the general idea we have in the position, right? Attacking the king, we're counterattacking. When they capture us, obviously not with this pawn, because then there'd be this discovery and we'd win the queen, right? When they capture with this other pawn, what do we want? For them to capture with this one? Well, look, there it is. Knight takes e6. And it's that simple, see? If the king moves, I give you the fork. And if they capture here, then simply knight c3 ends up winning the queen, wherever she goes. Look at the difference now. Seriously, in material, it's huge, right? We have a full queen advantage, and there's no way for the black pieces to even consider trying to win this game. Remember this well, okay? Don't come crying to me later that you lost to this gambit. You take the pawn, right? First, you defend with your pieces, okay? First the knight and then the bishop. Or I don't care if you do a vice versa. Check, and they want to take my bishop. Well, bishop d2. And when you take here, what was the correct move? There's only one, okay? Knight c3. I hope you have it written down in your notebook. We've seen the bishop attack, but what about the knight attack? Because you're playing knight takes c2 check, and they're knocking my teeth out here with knight takes rook, right? So what do I have to do? Well, it's very simple. I'll tell you that this way is even easier for me to punish than the other one. And the other one wasn't much of a mystery either, right? Once you know it, well, I like this way much better. First of all, how are we going to start? Surely, you're thinking that the move won't be rook c1. That's very passive, isn't it? We're staying too much on the defensive. No, the move is knight d4. Simply, we defend this point. But here, many of you will be thinking, or have even ruled out this move. Why? Because they play c5. And now what? As soon as I move the knight, they come in here. And if I don't move the knight, they're going to take it. So, chess teacher, you're recommending some pretty bad openings, huh? I'm going to stop following you. No, man, no, please. This is a winning move. Watch. It's true, they're attacking a knight, but what we have to do is make our saving move. They attack a knight, I attack your queen, rook b1. Do you remember this move? It's really the one that saves us every time. The queen has no other square. Queen of 3. Just like in the previous variation, both the knight and the bishop cut off a retreat. Therefore, queen of 3 is the only possible move. And now, once the queen is gone, moving the knight makes more sense. First, because you no longer threaten knight takes c2, and second, because I make a double attack. I attack the queen and I attack the c7 point. What I like about this gambit when it's played against you is that they're forced variations. That is, they're gonna lose no matter what. Why? Because if they make the correct moves, which are the ones in this video, you simply know how to punish them. And if they make worse ones, then with the same idea, it will be even easier to punish them. So now what? We attack the queen, and where does this queen go? Well, she only has one because we attack the queen and we attack the fork. Queen of 5. You see that the ideas are the same all the time, right? Attacking the fork, making strong attacks. Now, we won't be able to come and attack the other fork, but you'll see that the ideas are very similar. For example, I see a very strong discovered attack here, but the knight is in my way. So then what do? A 3, and you have to move the knight. Careful, here many of you might think this is already won. As soon as you move the knight, I play knight d4, and you're gonna win the game, right? Yeah, sure. If black are your friends, yes. And they cooperate, right? They just move the knight, they cooperate, perfect, we won the game. But what happens if they pull off the last little trick here, which is this a6? Many of you would collapse here. We wouldn't know how to continue. Don't worry, it's very simple. Let's do the following. Imagine that black tries to pull off this last little trick with a 6. How do we continue? Well, simple. We're going to do the following. First of all, we capture the knight with the pawn. So they can no longer capture the knight because we're threatening the queen. What do they have to do? Recapture here. You see it, right? Simple. But we're back in the same boat. And now I'll tell you one thing. They're attacking 2 knights at once. Well, very simple. Once again, we turn to our ally in these types of positions, the rook, which gains time on the queen. Rook to a1. And as much as it's true that the queen can escape and they're attacking both knights, it's a lie. This knight is no longer being attacked because the rook is undefended. See? So we already have an extra piece, right? The knight we've won. You're not going to take this one because it's pinned. Well, what about this one? Are you going to take it or not? Well, obviously not. If they simply attack a knight, we can move it back to the d4 square, and excuse me for saying so, but this square is already, sorry, this game is already completely won. The only way that seems to hold up is queen to d8. It's not what most people would do at this moment. I've looked it up, and this is the move they make. But this isn't just losing the rook with knight to c7 check. No, it doesn't lose the rook. Do you know what it loses? Look, check. I take the rook, but where do I go with the king? I can't get out because I have the other knight. What do I have to do? Well, then I have to take with the queen, and then I lose the queen. See? Knight takes, I lose the queen. And not just the queen, but I also lose the rook. Therefore, we have an extra queen and an extra rook. Please don't tell me you're not able to win this position, or I'll put my hands to my head. Obviously, I want to create an army of very strong players who won't be beaten by this opening or any other. So if you want to study hard, I recommend, of course, that you join the academy, where you have 2 or 3 classes a week that you can watch as many times as you want, whenever you want, 24 hours a day. They stay saved in the academy. You have full access to ChessMine. If you join now with the annual payment, I'll make you myself personally a customized study plan. I'm going to analyze your games. I'm going to help you with everything throughout the year and your progress so that you improve hand in hand with me. And you'll see that for all this, logically, the price is a bargain, especially now. I hope you loved it. If you're not in the academy, I don't know what you're waiting for. Well, maybe you're waiting for me to raise the prices, huh? To pay me more? Well, I'd like that. I'd like that. But if you want to be a little smart, then join now with the reduced price. I hope you loved this video. If you liked it, please give me a thumbs up and we'll see you tomorrow in the next one, friends. Goodbye.